Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to share 6 things that you absolutely need to know before starting an e-commerce business. And each one of these points is probably either going to save you or make you thousands of dollars, potentially a lot more than that in the future as well, if you just learn some of these basic practices and tips and tricks and mistakes that I've made before when selling physical products or when selling anything online. So it doesn't matter if you're just getting started with e-commerce or you're thinking about starting to selling products online, or if you're already making thousands of dollars online from selling your products, these tips and these things that you need to understand are going to be very, very important and crucial to any business. So let's go ahead and get into this video. If you're new here to the channel, make sure you subscribe, drop a like if you find this video to be helpful, and let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so the first thing that you really need to know here is something called cash flow. See, now a lot of people totally disregard this or just never actually learn it, but you need to really become a master of cash flow in your business. And I'll tell you what this is. Essentially, this is the flow of cash that comes in and out of your business. So I've seen this mistake where people will buy lots of inventory and then they'll have to wait and sell that inventory over maybe a year, and then they can't go buy more inventory because all their money is tied up in their products that they purchase. This is why some people like things like drop shipping, but drop shipping has a lot of its problems as well. And so I think back to one of my first businesses where I was selling products, and it was a pretty large eBay store. I was selling thousands of products per year through my eBay store when I was in high school. And a big problem that I faced is that I would have all these products, like I would have so much stuff, and I didn't have enough cash to go out and buy more products that I could then go sell. So my hands were kind of tied and I couldn't move. And at that point, either I had to go and buy things on credit with credit cards, or I had to figure something else out. And it's because I wasn't effectively managing my inventory. And I've met a lot of people today who, I'll talk to, and they're like, all of my wealth is tied up in these gadgets that I'm selling on Amazon or on these t-shirts that I bought. And, I think of 2 movies. The one movie was The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith running around with those computer machines. All of his wealth was tied up in those computer machines, and every time he sold one, he could pay his rent, but it was all tied up in there. He put all of his cash in there. That's a big mistake. The other one I think of is War Dogs with Miles Teller trying to sell all those bed sheets. He had so many bed sheets, and all of his cash was tied up in inventory. You don't want all of your cash tied up in inventory, and if it is, just make sure that you can find some other way to continue to scale and make sure that inventory is continuing to move and not just sitting there in a room somewhere, because that is not a good thing to have in a position like that if you're not moving inventory fast enough. Okay, so the second thing that you really need to know before starting an e-commerce business is you absolutely need to consider having a limited liability company, also known as an LLC. All right, so why is having an LLC so important? I'm going to give you 4 reasons right here. First of all, from a liability perspective. So when you create a company, it separates you from the company. Now, of course, I'm not a lawyer here, so make sure you do all of the fine print reading, because you can always dispute things in the courtrooms. But typically, it separates you from the business. So if I have a business and then I have myself, and somebody sues my business because they get hurt using one of my products, well, they might sue the business and the business can go down, but usually they can't come after my house or my other stuff. Now, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, so make sure you do all of your research on this. But generally speaking, limited liability companies, LLCs, help you to separate yourself from the business and separate yourself from some liability when you set that up. The other great thing about LLCs is that they typically can help you with taxes. So for my LLC, the way that it's set up, I file it as an S Corp. I don't want to get into too much jargon here, but basically it saves me a ton of money every single year because I have an LLC. If I was just a sole proprietor, I would have to pay a lot more in tax because of the state that I live in and the country that I live in and all of the different regulations. So it saves me a ton of money having an LLC. The other 2 reasons why you probably want to have one is, first of all, it's a lot more professional. So when people are making a payment or when you're writing a check, it can be coming from a company, not just from you, and it just looks way more professional. And then the 4th reason why it's really important to have an LLC LLC is because it can actually help you if you ever want to sell your business in the future. You can get acquired. Like, you can't sell yourself, like if that's just your business, you're a sole proprietor. It's a lot easier to do that if you already have a company that is set up for that. Okay, so now that you know it's so crucial to set up an LLC, you might be asking, how do I actually go about doing this? And that's where the sponsor for today's video comes in. So if you want to set up an LLC for your business, I'd recommend using Taylor Brands to help you with the process. I think one of the biggest reasons why people tend to put off setting up an LLC is because it sounds a bit intimidating and pretty confusing, and that's why Taylor Brands is such a helpful service. So if you go to Taylor Brands' website and you click the link down below in the description, they'll ask you a series of questions to ensure that you're setting up everything correctly, and they walk you through the entire process from beginning to end. And as you can see on the site, the process is super easy. Not only does it save you the headache of having to figure this out on your own, but it also saves you a ton of time as well. And in addition to LLC formation, Taylor Brands offers a variety of other super helpful products to grow your business. Things like helping you create logos or file for trademarks, or creating a website, or a domain registration for your site, or business email addresses, and even digital business cards. So go ahead and click on the link below in the description and head over to Taylor Brands for a limited time offer that they have at the moment. So the third thing that you need to be aware of before starting an e-commerce business is you need to understand state sales tax. Please don't neglect this. I've seen some people do this in the past, but look, you really need to understand how sales tax works in every state, and you need to be collecting it for most states if you are based in the United States. And so, I think back to way back in the day, like say even like 15 years ago, you would buy something on Amazon, and if Amazon was shipping it from California and you lived in Texas, you probably just wouldn't have to pay sales tax on that. But that was kind of a loophole with e-commerce back in the day. Now you have to pay that. And so if you're a seller, you also probably have to collect that from people who are purchasing your products. And luckily you can do this through some integrations on Shopify or whatever e-commerce site you're using. But just please do that. Make sure you're collecting those. If you neglect it, you're going to be faced with a couple of problems. One of them being the IRS is going to be on you eventually, and they're going to get mad at you and say, hey, you should have been collecting sales tax for the past 5 years. Where's the money? And then they're going to actually try to get money from you, and it's going to be kind of just hell, to be honest. So make sure you read into that. Sometimes there are exclusions, like for example, if you are, like a company based in China and you're selling products in the United States, sometimes you don't have to collect sales tax. It's all really dependent on a lot of different local regulations. So please, just my word of advice here on this point is understand sales tax and make sure that you are complying with them before going too big into business. Okay, so the fourth thing that you need to know before starting an e-commerce business is don't spend too much money on one specific ad, especially in the beginning. So this mistake has been made so many times in the past where somebody will try to create the best ad possible, whether this is for Facebook or TikTok ads, Snapchat ads, YouTube ads, whatever it might be. And they'll spend like $10,000 trying to create the most perfect ad, and then they'll launch it, they'll run it, and it converts terribly. And they're like, well, I just spent all of that money on that. So instead of trying to make the perfect ad from the get-go, what you want to actually do is utilize something known as split testing or A/B testing. And I love these concepts because I'm a big marketing nerd. But I learned this from Kong from JumpCut, who has run tens of millions of dollars in ads. And essentially what he said to me is that, Nate, you have to just basically make a bunch of ads with pretty low effort. Like, don't spend too much time on making these ads. Run them, just test them, put like a couple $100 behind them, test the ads, pick the best performing of that bunch of maybe 10 ads that you run. And then from those 3 ads that you picked from the 10 that seem to be performing okay, you then start to do something called A/B testing and split testing, where you will slightly tweak the ad. And then you'll run it next to the other ad that you've already been running in the past and see if you can increase the conversion rates ever so slightly by just slightly tweaking it. Like, just change one word. You might change like one tiny little word in the ad, and it can totally tweak it and improve your conversion rate by 10%. And then you take that one and then you run it against another one that you slightly tweak even more. And you just do this rinse and repeat A/B testing, split testing until you get the perfect ad. So you're not going to make the perfect ad right off the bat. Just remember that. It's all about testing and bringing it back to the lab, and testing and bringing it back to the lab, and just tweaking until you get a really high converting ad. Okay, two more points here. One of them is pretty simple. Look, you need to have fast load speeds on your site, whether you are selling your products through something that you've built on Shopify or BigCommerce or Tailor Brands or any of these other different places where you are running your e-commerce business. You need to have fast load speeds. I've seen people use certain website hosts that I'm probably not going to name in this video because I don't want them to get mad at me, but there's certain website hosts that are just really slow and the websites are down all the time or they're outdated websites. And if you're a consumer and you go onto a website and if it even slightly looks sketchy to you, you'll probably just say, hey, I don't trust this. I don't want to put my credit card information in here. And you exit out and you don't go back and it kills the rankings for the website and it's just overall not good for you. So if you want to increase your conversion rates, focus on load speeds on your website. You can learn a lot of this information by just going into like the details on your site. I build most of my sites actually through WordPress. So just remember that load speeds, everything is important, even down to the most like tiny nanosecond. You need to have fast load speeds so that you don't lose customers, especially in today's age. People have these TikTok brains. We just need we're like goldfish. We need attention. We need things to be moving constantly. If a website is loading, we'll click off. People don't have the patience for it today. So the final point that I want to share with you is to consider focusing on recurring customers rather than just like one-time sales, especially if these are for pretty inexpensive products. So if you are running Facebook ads and you're trying to sell like a $15 product, this is going to be really tough because, you have to understand another thing that a lot of marketers talk about, which is your CAC, which is your cost of customer acquisition, and then also your lifetime value of that customer, or what people might say is LTV, right? And so if you can get customers that are recurring, maybe you get them on a subscription, for example, you can increase that lifetime value of the customer by so much. So please consider doing this. I've just seen a lot of people make that mistake where they'll sell, like products and they won't have any type of email list. They won't have a way to kind of get that person into a subscription so that they're buying the product every month or every quarter so that they can kind of like wrap them in and really get the most revenue per customer. And that's what it's all really about, is revenue per customer, and then how much does it cost you to acquire that customer. And if you can get your average revenue per customer to say $100, suddenly that means that you can probably spend, $80 to acquire that customer in a lot of cases, right? So just remember that point as well. All right, so those are the 6 things that you need to know before starting an e-commerce business. If you want to go set up that LLC, don't forget to go down into the description and check out Tailor Brands. They're going to walk you through the entire process. It's super easy, super smooth, and I highly recommend it. So thanks Tailor Brands for sponsoring this video, and I really hope that you can grow in your e-commerce journey. We have tons of other videos helping you with marketing, helping you with building websites, and everything else that you need to know to scale your e-commerce business. So thank you, and I'll see you in next week's video.